Let me ask you something nobody asks out loud. How many hours of your life have you lost to it? Not just the minutes spent watching, but the hours after, the brain fog, the shame spiral, the low energy, the way you looked at people differently, the way you looked at yourself differently. Most men won't admit it, but most men are fighting this war every single day, quietly, alone, losing. And the cruel part? The world tells you it's normal, it's just biology. Everyone does it, relax. But you feel it, don't you? Something is off. Something has been stolen. Your drive feels muted. Your focus feels fractured. Your relationships feel hollow. And deep down you know, this thing has more control over you than you want to admit. That's not weakness. That's addiction. And addiction, at its core, is a failure of the mind to govern itself. The Stoics knew about this battle long before the internet made it infinite and free. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, wrote privately in his journal about the war against appetite, against desire, against the part of the human mind that, left ungoverned, will consume everything. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not to the fantasy, not to the craving, to the present, to reality, to what is actually in front of you." That single idea, presence over appetite, is the foundation of everything we're going to cover today. In this video, we're going deep into the Stoic framework for desexualizing your brain, not through shame, not through religion, not through willpower, white-knuckling alone, but through philosophy, through rewiring how you think about desire itself. 7 rules, ancient wisdom, modern application, and zero sugarcoating. This is going to hit hard. Stay with it, because the man who masters his appetites masters everything else. Don't skip a single rule. The one you want to skip is probably the one you need most. Let's begin. Rule 1, name the enemy correctly. This is not about sex, it's about power. Before you can fight something, you have to name it accurately. Most people frame this battle wrong. They call it a bad habit, a guilty pleasure, a weakness, and that framing keeps them losing. Here's the Stoic reframe. This is not about sex. Sex is natural. Desire is natural. The Stoics never asked you to become a robot. This is about who holds the power. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Replace angering with arousing on command. Replace person with a screen, a website, an image, an algorithm engineered by $1 billion company specifically designed to hijack your dopamine system. That thing has become your master. You don't choose when the craving comes. It comes for you. You don't choose what you're drawn to anymore. The algorithm chose for you and escalated further than you ever intended to go. You don't choose how you feel after. The shame arrives whether you invited it or not. That is not freedom. That is a man in chains who has been told the chains are normal. The Stoics believed that the only truly free person is the one who is owned by nothing, not by fear, not by comfort, not by appetite. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." So the first move is brutal honesty. Stop calling it a habit. Call it what it is, a power struggle, and right now you're losing. That's not shame. That's a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is the beginning of recovery, not the end. Name the enemy correctly, and then you can fight it correctly. Rule 2. Understand what pornography actually does to the mind. The Stoics demanded clear seeing, looking at reality without the distortion of desire or wishful thinking. So let's see this clearly. When you consume pornography repeatedly, you are not just watching something. You are training your brain. Every single session is a lesson your nervous system memorizes. Here's what that lesson teaches. Arousal is instant, available on demand, requires no effort, no vulnerability, no real human connection. And it escalates, because the brain adapts. What excited you 6 months ago no longer registers. So you go further and further without ever choosing to. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Pornography is the purest form of this. It is 100% imagination, 100% simulation. And the brain, which cannot fully distinguish between the simulated and the real, begins to prefer the simulation Because the simulation has no friction, no rejection, no complexity, no realness, and slowly reality loses. Real intimacy starts to feel like too much work. Real attraction feels muted compared to the overstimulation of the screen. Real relationships carry weight, difficulty, vulnerability, none of which the simulation requires. This is not a moral lecture. This is neuroscience wrapped in Stoic clarity. The Stoics called excessive appetite path, passions that distort reason and enslave the soul. They believed these passions, left ungoverned, corrupt everything: judgment, relationships, purpose, identity. Pornography, consumed habitually, is path in its most sophisticated modern form. See it clearly, not with shame, with accuracy, because you cannot detox from something you still half believe is harmless. Rule 3. Practice the discipline of impression management. This is where the real Stoic work begins. The Stoics had a concept called Phantasia, the impression. The moment something enters your awareness and triggers a response before you've consciously engaged with it. You see something, a craving fires. That gap between the impression and the response is where your entire freedom lives. Epictetus said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." Most people in addiction have collapsed that gap to zero. Impression arrives. Response is automatic. Craving comes. Action follows. No pause, no choice. The Stoic practice is to rebuild that gap deliberately. Here's how it works in real terms. The moment a craving arrives, do not fight it. Do not shame it. Do not white-knuckle against it. Observe it. Say to yourself internally, this is an impression. It is not a command. It is not reality. It is a signal firing in my brain that I can examine without obeying. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. When appetite arose, he would describe it plainly, strip it of its glamour. He wrote about reducing desires to their bare, physical reality, not to be disgusted by them, but to see them clearly without the narrative the mind builds around them. The craving feels massive, urgent, inevitable. That's the narrative. The reality is, it's a signal. Signals pass. Signals lose intensity when not acted upon. Your practice, when the impression arrives, pause for 90 seconds. Just 90. Don't negotiate. Don't engage. Just observe, breathe, name it. This is a craving. It will pass. I am not this craving. I choose what comes next. Do this enough times and the gap widens. The automation breaks, and you begin to feel something you may have forgotten. The quiet power of choosing. Rule 4. Voluntary deprivation. Starve the appetite to shrink its power. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare. Say to yourself, is this the condition that I feared?" The Stoics practiced voluntary deprivation, deliberately going without comfort, pleasure or convenience, not as punishment, but as training. Because here's the truth about appetite. Feed it and it grows. Starve it and it shrinks. Every time you give in to a craving, you do two things. You temporarily relieve it, and you teach your brain that the relief comes from giving in, which means the next craving comes faster, stronger, and more convincingly urgent. Every time you sit with a craving and let it pass, unfed, you do something radical. You teach your brain that the craving is survivable without being obeyed. That is how the brain rewires. Not through motivation, not through inspiration, through repeated, boring, difficult choice, made again and again on the days it doesn't feel heroic at all. Voluntary deprivation for this battle looks like setting a hard boundary and keeping it for 1 day, then 2, then a week, building evidence that you are a man who keeps his word to himself, removing access before the craving arrives. The Stoics knew willpower in the moment of desire is the weakest time to rely on it. Engineer the environment before the battle begins, replacing the ritual. The craving usually arrives at a specific time, in a specific place, in a specific emotional state. Identify it. Interrupt it at the environment level, not the willpower level. Seneca didn't wait until he was hungry to practice eating less. He practiced in advance. So when real hunger came, the training was already done. Do the same. Don't wait for the craving to fight it. Train before it arrives. Rule 5. Rebuild what the addiction has been replacing. Here's the question nobody asks. What need was it meeting? Because pornography addiction, like all addiction, is not really about the thing. It's about what the thing was doing for you underneath. Escape from stress, relief from loneliness, a simulation of connection when real connection felt too risky, a dopamine hit when life felt flat and purposeless. Seneca wrote, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. Anxiety, purposelessness, loneliness, emotional avoidance. These are the soil in which this addiction grows." The Stoics didn't just remove vices. They replaced them with virtue, active engagement with what is genuinely meaningful. And this is crucial. You cannot simply remove a behavior and leave the void empty. The void will refill itself. So ask yourself with radical honesty, when does the craving hit hardest? Late at night alone? After a stressful day? When you feel invisible or disconnected? Those are not moments of weakness. Those are data points. They are telling you exactly what real need is going unmet. And then meet the need another way. The loneliness, address it. One real conversation, one human connection, not a simulation of one. The purposelessness, address it. What are you building? What are you becoming? A man with a mission doesn't need an escape from his life, because his life is the mission. The stress, address it. The body, movement, the cold, the discipline. Real physical discomfort that your nervous system respects. Marcus Aurelius didn't escape from his life. He built an interior life so rich, so purposeful, so demanding that there was no room left for appetite to fill the space. Build that interior life, not as a strategy, as your new identity. Rule 6. Reframe how you see other people. This one is harder than it sounds. One of the most corrosive effects of habitual pornography use is what it does to how you see real people. Specifically how you see women. It's not something most men admit, but the objectification bleeds. The way you look at people in public, the way your mind categorizes before you've even spoken, the way real intimacy feels complicated when the simulation was so simple. The Stoics had a direct practice for this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about seeing people fully, not just the surface, but the whole human reality behind it, the fear they carry, the grief they hold, the complexity of their inner life, the dignity they deserve as rational beings, equal participants in the human experience. This is the antidote to objectification, not guilt, not forced political statements, but genuine curiosity about the full humanity of the people you encounter. When your mind reduces someone to an object, stop and ask, who is this person? What do they carry? What do they love? What keeps them up at night? That shift, from object to subject, rewires something deep. It is impossible to simultaneously objectify someone and be genuinely curious about their inner life. Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." In other words, meet reality as it is, people as they are, complex, full, human. This is not just ethics, this is recovery. Because the brain that has been trained to see people as objects cannot build real intimacy. And real intimacy, real connection, is ultimately what you're starving for beneath all of this. See people fully, and you begin to want real things again. Rule 7. Become a man whose identity makes this impossible. This is the final rule, and it is the one that makes all the others stick. Every rule before this is a tactic. This one is the foundation. Because here's the truth about long-term recovery from any addiction. Tactics alone don't hold. Willpower alone doesn't hold. Rules alone don't hold. What holds is identity. The man who says, "I am trying not to watch pornography," is in a constant fight against himself. The man who says, "I am someone who does not consume this," it conflicts with who I am and who I am becoming. That man has a completely different relationship with the craving when it arrives. The Stoics built their lives around becoming a certain kind of person, not performing virtue, being virtuous, not avoiding vice out of fear, rejecting it because it is beneath who they had decided to be. Marcus Aurelius asked himself daily, what would a good man do here? Not what would make him feel good. What would a good man do? Ask yourself, Who is the man I am committed to becoming? Write it down. Be specific. Not I want to be disciplined, but what does that man do in the morning? How does he carry himself? What does he build? How does he treat people? What does he refuse? And then live from that identity, especially on the hard days, especially when the craving is loud and the night is long and no one is watching. Seneca wrote, "I will govern my life and thoughts as if the whole world were too." See the one and read the other. Live as if the man you want to become is already watching, because in every choice you are either building that man or betraying him. Become someone for whom this addiction is simply incompatible with who they are. That is not willpower. That is transformation. If you made it here, you already know this video wasn't random for you. Something brought you to this topic. Something inside you is tired. Tired of the loop. Tired of the shame. Tired of feeling like you're capable of so much more. But something keeps pulling you back down. That tiredness is not weakness. That is your real self fighting to get out. The Stoics didn't promise an easy path. They promised a meaningful one. A path where struggle is expected, where the fight is the point, where every day you choose to govern your mind is a day you become more free. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. None of them were perfect. All of them fought their own battles with appetite, with desire, with the pull toward what was easy over what was right. And they all arrived at the same place. Freedom is not the absence of desire. Freedom is the ability to look at desire and choose. You have that ability. You may have forgotten it, but it was never taken from you. Start today, not tomorrow, not after one more time. Today, drop this in the comments. I choose my mind over my appetite. Starting now. And if this video reached something real in you, like it, share it, subscribe. We are building a community of men who are serious about mastery. Not perfection, mastery. The war is worth fighting. You are worth fighting for. Now go. Choose.